Scientists, philosophers, and Hollywood movie directors alike have been theorizing about artificial intelligence, or AI, for decades. With the advent of ChatGPT released November 2022, AI is no longer a scientist's project, a philosophical quandary, or a fictional box office hit. AI is now a part of our lives, and it doesn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon. While AI is only in its infancy, its dark matter has already spread into our music, art, relationships, and even our impulses. While some skeptics warn of AI's imminent danger to our society, it's possible that these rapid changes will enhance human flourishing and promote wisdom. The problem is, however, wisdom seems to be in short supply, and in my opinion, wisdom is especially in short supply for the modern man. Throughout history, societies have redefined the meaning of masculinity. The Spartans were supposed to be lethal warriors, skilled dancers, and eloquent poets. The working class men of the 40s were supposed to be industrious family providers, patriotic citizens, and deeply religious. Today, well, for better or worse, masculinity seems to be in question today. The answer to the question, what defines masculinity, can vary widely depending on who is defining masculinity and their intentions. In this video, I'm going to argue that the AI Big Bang can in fact contribute to a new and adaptive definition of masculinity, if only we are brave enough to face such a daunting task. In our infinitesimally small lifespan as a species in the universe, we human beings really have come a long way in terms of survival. But have we really achieved supreme knowledge of ourselves and the world around us? No. I believe our ancestors were wiser than we are today, not because they had more information than we do, but because they lived with more urgency, will to survive, and the focus necessary to accomplish their goals. I believe today, we, myself included, are what I call information monkeys. Not information sapiens, but monkeys. In case you didn't know, the word sapiens means wise. But even though Homo sapiens is supposed to mean wise man, I believe that if the anthropologists who named our species saw our phone use and the media we consume on a daily basis, I believe it's possible they would have gone with entertained man. I call myself and the men of today information monkeys because we, as primates, still fall prey to our baser chimpanzee DNA. When we scour the digital landscape like bands of chimps in a famine, when we roam the border of our political territory, tearing other chimps apart who trespass our woke or conservative territory, when we set up social hierarchies in order to be top chimp, if we are to adaptively utilize the wealth of resources that technology has to offer, we have to fight our baser tendencies to be more Homo sapiens than Homo ludens. But in order to do that, we have to know where we can improve. And in order to do that, we have to know where we are now and what we've become. We've become undisciplined with our emotions. We've decided to consume entertainment over wisdom. We've lost all desire for aggressive and productive action. We simply have to be man enough to tame our inner monkey in order to become information monks. In the ever-expansive cosmos of finite resources, it's no wonder why data is more valuable than oil, why the military spends the majority of its budget on information-gathering technologies as opposed to missiles and tanks. In fact, more than 3 centuries ago, Napoleon Bonaparte was credited for the saying, "Information is more valuable than gunpowder." Needless to say, the future is information, and in a future completely run by far superior AI than today, it's going to be harder and harder for us to know for ourselves who we are at an individual level. That's why, as men, striving to be information monks, we have to make a constant practice of the following 3 skills: paying attention and having presence of mind, loving the pain of true wisdom, and number 3, mastering what I call perpetual swiftness. It seems that no matter the sacred text, culture, or period in history, all practitioners of asceticism have one thing in common: to attain ultimate wisdom and mastery over our chaotic inner macrocosm. But to do this, we need to master information in a calm and disciplined way. But like I mentioned earlier, we have to surpass being information monkeys. Monkey problem number 1. Men today are too undisciplined with their emotions. In the supermassive black hole that is the internet, men today are currently engaged in what's now being called identity politics, calling ourselves woke or conservative, black or white, rich or poor, then using these titles to make entire life decisions and general judgments about the world. What's ironic is that we think it's us who ascribe these labels to ourselves, when in reality, we are constantly being pressured to pick a side. Regardless of the side we pick, we feel shaken with anger and resentment each time the other denies our side, our reality. What's even more concerning is that the practice of identity politics is only going to strengthen with the advent of AI. What's going to happen in the near future when AI can perform its own candidate polling, its own speech writing, and craft its own legislation? Because if that's the case, then maybe you can imagine a presidential primary where the candidate is 100% reliant on the dictates of multiple high-powered, data-driven AI. What would happen to a society if the candidate ends up becoming president? Would it not then be the case that we would be following the dictates of an AI ruler? Since the majority of citizens vote with their emotions over rationality, the only solution I can see in a future of greater identity politics is to not fall for the gravitational pull of strong emotional ploys. We have to master our emotions before it's too late. As men, we have to be both compassionate and aggressively rational, not because we are cold and calculating, but because rationality is the best metric we have for quelling our vehement emotions while at the same time making the best possible decision for the greatest amount of people. As men, we have to make compassionate choices regardless of the people we disagree with, and change our perspective when we are unreasonable instead of doubling down on our emotional convictions. All this to say, if you are rational and you treat people with respect and firmness, there can be no other alternative in this world but widespread kindness and sense-making. Otherwise, will just be predictable laws of emotion, easily manipulated by hyper-efficient, money-interested, emotional manufacturing software charlatans. Monkey problem number 2. Men today are using information for entertainment and not wisdom. In the days of ancient Greece, wisdom was the highest good, and the passions, i.e., our baser tendencies, were irrational and therefore frowned upon. When Aristotle was alive, it took him years to develop a comprehensive system for categorizing living organisms based on their characteristics, thus leading to humanity's first taxonomic records. And in case you're curious, his taxonomy records are still in use today. Aristotle was what I call the ideal knowledge monk. Rather than chasing information that was entertaining and making that his main goal in life, he devoted his life to acquiring wisdom and made that pursuit his entertainment. Aristotle understood that wisdom was more important than entertainment. But what if Aristotle was born in 1993 instead of 384 BC? I fear that he too would succumb to the same fate all of us men face today. That of passive consumers severed from our deep need for knowledge and wisdom at the hands of highly curated, addictive technologies. You see, there's always a delicate balance when striving to attain never-ending knowledge. It's a balance between discomfort and entertainment, because even he understood that, quote, the roots of education are bitter, but the fruit is sweet. He understood that knowledge is pain. Monkey problem number 3. Men today are not actionable. In the first video of this channel, I talked about the modern male malaise and how one of the main reasons for men falling behind in education, dating, and male-centered friendships stems from a lack of conviction to gain self-mastery by means of suffering for a purpose. It's possible that we've reached a critical mass of male couch potatory because of an over-reliance on addictive technologies and their highly curated, pleasure-inducing algorithms. Whether that's TikTok, Netflix, Instagram, and the countless more effective apps of the future, men are too busy consuming and therefore too passive to be actionable. It's because of this fact that the following should be a modern Newtonian universal law. The more time you spend consuming in the digital world, the less time you spend executing in the physical world. Said differently, a man in consumption stays in consumption until a force is acted upon him to act. When it comes to inactivity, us men have been passive consumers for so long that I'm afraid we've lost our internal nuclear desire for action to make something of ourselves in the world despite any and all opposition. It seems our attention is so unevenly split, with the majority of our focus primarily going to all things digital, that we forgot what it's like to make shit happen. A criminally underutilized quote from the early 20th century comes from Herbert Simon, Nobel Prize-winning economist, political scientist, and computer scientist, who wrote, "In an information-rich world, the wealth of information means a dearth of something else, a scarcity of whatever it is that information consumes. What information consumes is rather obvious. It consumes the attention of its recipients. Hence, a wealth of information creates a poverty of attention." It's this quote-unquote wealth of information that left a black hole in our emotional mastery, our wisdom, and our will to action. If we want to embody the healthiest form of masculinity, we have to master our attention. But in order to do that, we have to become the solution to overcome our baser monkey tendencies. We have to become information monks. Masculinity to me means to be a gentleman to all, a servant to a laudable idea, and a savage when necessary. But if we as men are going to survive the future with our masculinity intact, we have to be monk-like in abstaining from information that is purely entertaining, and instead choose information that emboldens our existence as a fully integrated man, instead of choosing information that makes us programmable automatons, too addicted to notice that we're forgetting what it's like to be men, to be the big three: gentleman, servant, savage. But to be these three things, we have to consistently practice mastery of ourselves by, number 1, mastering calmness, number 2, choosing painful wisdom, and number 3, becoming what I call infodynamic. So let's begin. Monk practice, number 1, mastering our emotions. Picture yourself floating through deep space. To your right, you see an entire solar system, and to your left, you see an entire wall of gas clouds, a nebula. You look to your right and see the sun at the center of this peculiar solar system. Looking closer with your high-powered binoculars, you see thousands upon thousands of comets a second violently hurling toward this star, each one accelerating at an exponential rate the closer it gets to this supermassive bright giant. Now you look to the expansive bright blue and red nebula to your left. You look around and you zoom in to see this peculiarly bright tiny orb, no bigger than a golf ball. Pushing the joystick on your jetpack controller, you propel yourself toward this golf ball and stop just 1 inch from this highly tinted, high contrast visor. And what do you see? You see the same thing as you saw with the star, except this golf ball is attracting smaller mass, no greater than grains of salt, until eventually, billions of years from now, it becomes a supermassive gas star, a sun. In the universe of the mind, and indeed in reality, the greater the mass, the greater the gravitational pull, which, in the mind, translates equally to the following: the greater your emotions, the greater the pull of attention. To master your emotions, you have to take them with a grain of salt before they suck you in and all your attention. But how? How could we as men tether ourselves to a stable, more reliable foundation to master our emotions and our attention? We can look no further than the Stoic practice of objective representation. Objective representation is defined as the ability to state a thought or idea strictly in objective terms, without negative emotional words. Say you visit an app of your choice and you see something that offends your political party. An objective representation of the situation would be, that politician said something I found offensive because it doesn't align with my current beliefs. That's it. Or if it's world news written from the perspective of CNN or Fox, the monkey move would be to say, "Did you hear what those idiots were saying during last week's march?" The monk move would be to say, "It seems the other side feels strongly about that particular cause." If men want to evolve, they have to stop being controlled by their emotions, especially in a future dominated by hyper-specialized AI who will certainly be manipulating all levers of the human brain. Monk practice number 2, choosing the pain of wisdom over the pleasure of entertainment. If you define wisdom as self-knowledge, entertainment is almost never a means to wisdom. The reason for this is simple. Self-knowledge is painful. It has to be earned through the courage to introspect and the discipline to come back to this practice on repeat. Whereas entertainment is by definition the opposite of painful. It's momentarily blissful. Entertainment distracts us from who we are, whereas the practice of seeking self-knowledge asks us to face the man in the mirror and ask ourselves existential questions like, who am I? What is my purpose? Are my actions aligned with the man I want to be? After all, life is a long spell of suffering and discomfort followed by an inevitable death. A death that terrifies us into existential avoidance, which is to say, if we want to thrive in the future, we have to consciously do away with entertainment and choose information that will lead to excellence and self-mastery. Here are 3 ways we can do this. Limit virtual entertainment. When it comes to the virtual world, it seems entertainment far outweighs wisdom-promoting content. You can test this theory by doing the following. Go on YouTube, and on the panel to the left, scroll down and click Trending. As you scroll, try and see if you can notice anything that has to do with self-knowledge. Chances are, you'll see live performance highlights, sports, music videos, trailers, and famous YouTubers doing ridiculous things with their money. Now let's try another one. Go to Google and simply click the search bar without typing anything. Again, chances are you'll see celebrity gossip, sports, or world news. We have to realize that these are indicators of most searched topics by the general public, and none of these topics has anything to do with mastering our emotions, reading faster, being more formidable in times of crisis, making friends. To be better, we have to consume better by choosing information that'll lead to actual learning. Number 2, inoculate yourself from the pain of wisdom by means of analytical depreciation. This is yet another teaching from Stoicism, which is called depreciation by analysis. Essentially, this means analyzing a thing until it no longer occupies mental bandwidth. Depreciation by analysis might seem simple, but this practice has an incredibly profound impact on how us men can consume information. Imagine you're afraid of spiders. It's possible to inoculate yourself from this fear by searching everything you can about spiders. First, you look up what all spiders look like, so you can identify which ones are poisonous and which ones are harmless house spiders, where they like to set up their webs, so you can rapidly identify them. What are the benefits to having spiders, so you can keep the harmless ones that eat ticks? How many people die a year of spiders, so you can rest assured knowing that only 11 people a year die of spider bites. And you can do this if you're afraid of flying long distance, diseases, physical safety, political counterpoints to your own, on and on until you've worked your way down your hypothetical or maybe even literal list of fears. To be an information monk of the future, depreciation by analysis is a pivotal practice that can inoculate us from the fears we are too afraid to answer. After all, it was Nietzsche who said, "The fear of knowledge is the fear of the unknown." Embrace it, and you will discover the true depths of your own potential. As I said before, knowledge is pain. And because human beings are creatures of comfort, this naturally makes learning uncomfortable. But here's the thing. Men are deeply anti-fragile. We have this incredible gift to become acclimated to the most stressful conditions. That is, if we find a reason that makes the discomfort worthy to be confronted in the first place. And since the future will be a place of informational abundance, men, whether they like it or not, will have more information than ever to choose between the pleasure of entertainment or the pain of growth. Unfortunately, however, if there's one thing that'll remain the same all the way into the future, it's that pleasure and entertainment will be the default. But if we are to choose the life of growth and wisdom, we have to develop that mental muscle that's courageous enough to seek answers we are too afraid to ask. Is my behavior aligned with being a man, a gentleman, servant, and savage? Do I feel legitimate animosity toward an entire political group? Am I thinking for myself if I just so happen to think the exact same thing others are feeling and thinking? These questions, and many more, are never easy to ask ourselves. But if we leverage the infinite expanse from our information monastery, it's possible we can be man enough to confront that monkey within, and in that process, develop ourselves into a universe of internal harmony. Monk practice number 3, becoming infodynamic. In war, as in life, information, or what the military calls intelligence, is by far the single most important ingredient for countless benefits, fast transience, acting with precision, but most importantly, understanding at a profound level people, places, and things. If we can follow the other two practices, mastering our emotions and choosing the pain of wisdom, we can then move to mastering the art of information dynamism. To be information dynamic is to be fast, precise, flexible in our action, and multifaceted in our character and beliefs. Fingerspitzengefühl is a German word that translates to fingertip feeling. It refers to a person's ability to have a keen sense about a situation, allowing them to make quick and accurate judgments or decisions. Fingerspitzengefühl is when you have the complete awareness and therefore mastery in maneuvering or understanding something in your outer world, which is to say, the more you know, the more intuitive sense you'll have on that person, place, or thing you are seeking to understand. And with a greater sense of control, you can therefore be more flexible because you've looked at all the information necessary to understand all aspects of the subject in study. And when you understand all areas of yourself and the world around you, you can then become multifaceted in your character and your beliefs. As I said before, I believe a real man is a gentleman to all, a servant to a laudable idea, and a calm, rational savage when necessary. Beyond these three things, it doesn't matter whatsoever what identities you've been born into, chosen, or society has branded you with. So long as these three pillars intact, he is a force for good and has obtained within him a healthy form of masculinity. That being said, the future of men is to be a seeker of wisdom and is therefore multifaceted in both character and beliefs, which means the only thing he knows to be a fact is that his purpose is to master himself above all else. Anything else is out of his control. No matter where the wind blows or what the fad is during his time as a man, no matter how pleasurable or painful, no matter how unfortunate or invigorating the information, he seeks out supporting and opposing information for wisdom's sake. Put simply, he gathers information with an objective outlook. Why? Because he's an information monk striving for wisdom as opposed to an information monkey living for pleasure. As we hurl into the AI event horizon at a faster and faster velocity, it's obvious as men, we will have to ask ourselves before every click, tap, ding, or zap, will this information I'm about to take in contribute to wisdom? The answer will depend on the kind of man you want to be. Do you want to be the societal default pleasure-seeking man monkey, or do you want to have mastery over your emotions? The decision is up to you. Choose formidably.